know. I'm scared. I mean, you're so.
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up.
My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention.
It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
This is Straight Talk with Enlivening Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fan, the Preacher Man.
Sandra L. Williams, and Sandra is the executive director for the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council. Last week she was on the road. She worked for RSPW, and she is the political action person for her organization as well. And she was in Nashville last week and talking to individuals that were there that was talking about what was going on with the redistricting of the seats in Tennessee. So, Sandra, give us an update on what took place on last week.
Last week, Tennessee was the first state to go into a special session about redistricting. And as of May 12th, the Tennessee General Assembly passed and signed into law a new mid-decade congressional maps. These typically happen after the census, but this is a mid-decade congressional map, dramatically reshaping the 9th district to dismantle the state's only majority-minority Democrat-held seat in Memphis. The new map split Shelby County into 3 districts, aiming to give the Republicans a 9-0 advantage in the U.S. House delegation for August 2026, for the August 2026 primary, and then again in November. What you are seeing is Governor Bill Lee and the cronies, or the GOP there in Tennessee, have decided after the horrific U.S. Supreme Court decision on Louisiana versus Calais that they are going to go back in and do redistricting. And so they have, which the only majority minority seat there in Tennessee was down in Memphis. And so with that, what we also are hearing is that for all of the state delegation that protested, the Democratic delegation that protested against the redistricting, they are being punished, and their committee assignments are being taken away. This is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. And we have to talk to voters, educate voters, and mobilize voters, because your vote very much does count. And even though there are efforts, major efforts, to suppress the vote, we can be victorious if we can increase voter turnout in all of the southern states.
We'll be talking a little later on in terms of the numbers of Democratic voters in certain states like Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, maybe perhaps even Alabama. But anyway, I think one thing that you said that's very key and crucial is that people don't vote. They're registered to vote, but they won't go to the polls to vote. And the fallout for you not voting is horrific. And then when people say, well, my vote don't matter. Well, if your vote doesn't matter, why are you trying to take your vote? And we see what's happening. And they are doing everything they can to take us back to a time and a place that we're not going to go. And hopefully, as you said, we will continue to educate. And I want to just take a pause here, because someone said, well, I'm voting for the person that gave me $200 or $2,000. What did that $2,000 do for you now? When gas prices are 5, 6, all the dollars going up, food prices going up, all these things that are going up in terms of pricing, how did that benefit you now? Because you voted the wrong way. Now you're being impacted by your vote or your non-vote, right? So but that's where we are, and that's how I see it.
You see it correctly, because this is an all-out assault on the Black community. We know in the last year, just through the effort of this administration, through the DOGE, which was supposed to be an efficiency purge in the government employee workforce, that we have lost over 400,000 jobs of Black women, African Americans, that have found a middle-class life in working for the federal government, where you couldn't go into private sector and be hired for your time and your talent. You certainly could go to the federal government and feel as if you'd actually found your career choice, you found good wages and benefits, and to have that stricken. So it's not a mistake that those employees were targeted. The efficiency really doesn't stand the test of light, because when you look at the employees that were then recalled, we still have professionals that are out of work, that worked once at the CDC here in Atlanta, but across these United States, and particularly in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. You also saw just last Friday that the Virginia Supreme Court denied the people's say, because there was a referendum that was passed on the redistricting maps that actually said, no, we're not interested in redistricting our state. It passed through a referendum, and the Virginia Supreme Court decided that they would overrule the will of the people. We cannot afford to continue to have people in these seats that are indifferent to the Black community, indifferent to working families. So we have to, the only way to change that, change your judicial representation, your legislative representation, is by getting out to vote, is by educating people on what the issues are and what these people's voting histories have been. Whether you are a Democrat or Republican, when you say nonpartisan, you had a voting history, you had a perspective, you had a philosophy. That philosophy follows you into that seat, whether it's partisan or nonpartisan, especially nonpartisan. We just saw in Georgia, House Bill 369 was just signed off by the governor after many attempts to get him to reconsider or to veto the bill, that fell on deaf ears. We also anticipate, even though Governor Kemp said he was not going to have a redistricting plan or call a special session, we are understanding that maps are being created right now that show gerrymandering of a different kind here in Georgia. So it's, we know what's coming, so we have to be proactive. We can no longer afford to be reactive. We need to plan consistently through 2030 and beyond, because they gave us the playbook 2025, Project 2025. They are acting out each and every piece of that playbook, and we need to respond in kind by voting.
Thank you so very much. But you hit on a key issue: educate, mobilize, and get people involved in the process. People perish because of lack of knowledge. But thank you,
That's
Sam,
right.
for being a part of Straight Talk, and we'll catch you on the road at you down in Montgomery.
See you Saturday.
See you Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome today to Straight Talk with your truly great fan, the preacher man, and Ronald Allen. And Ron is in studio today. And of course, we don't have Shannon. Lord have mercy. He dropped by the studio last week, and Bishop Tate is back with us again today with his analysis of the paralysis. He got all his analysis. So Ron and I were going to listen to his analysis. He's going to give us analysis. Last week gave analysis on gerrymandering. He wants to follow up with some more statistics. And of course, I hope he didn't totally depend on Google this week. Ron, how you doing, man?
Bishop, I'm doing so well. We coming to the end of another school year, getting these 8th graders to 9th grade. Yeah, they're going to be high schoolers in 3 months. So we did our job with them.
All right. You know, and glad to have you too.
Yes, sir.
Glad to have you
Yes,
too.
sir.
But let me just say this. I was at CBC Monday, and I got out of my car, right, walking into the building. I heard all this loud noise, like somebody just hollering and all this hollering and stuff. And it's a school back over there. And I didn't realize, I didn't think about the school. I heard all this laughter and hollering and going on. And I thought about it when school was about out, when we were getting out of school is out at last. I'm so glad. As them kids, so glad the school is out. You don't know nothing about that. You said you don't know nothing about that. I'm so glad the school is out. I can run and shout. And never do doing running and shout.
Absolutely.
But listen, I want to just congratulate all of the graduates, those who are graduating from kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, and certainly those who have gone on to secondary education and gone on to college, and they're going on toward their college career. And I hope that we'll be talking about the HBCU schools today, and we'll be talking about about boycotting, whether or not they will be boycotting. We'll have that in our discussion today. But we'll lead off with today with Bishop Tate. He has some more stats today, some stats for us in terms of follow-up from last week with the gerrymandering and what the courts have ruled that they can now gerrymander by party. And of course, they've been gerrymandered by party.
Right.
That is nothing. That's
right.
nothing new. But they made it more legal, I guess, to say that they could do it without having to go through pre-clearance. When they did away with pre-clearance with Section 2 of that those act,
That Voters' Rights
Vote
Act.
Right Act, when they did away with Section 2, that started leading the way. Holder, that young lady, the group, the suit gets Holder when Holder was Attorney General. Now Section 5, they're saying, okay, you don't have to worry about pre-clearance. We already took care of that. Now we're going to set it where we're going to put it toward what the parties in control can gerrymander the areas based on what? Parties, not population, not trying to make it fair to give equal representation, or at best equal representation to certain areas of their various states. When you take Memphis had one black elected officials,
Right.
and now they go gerrymander. Now won't be none.
They on the goose egg.
Yeah, they're on the goose egg. And I tell you, God don't like ugly. I preached that Sunday. God don't like ugly. In Alabama, the state house, when they were voting on trying to do that, the rain came down so it flooded out their car, and the gas was in the building, so they had to leave the building. God don't like ugly. But anyway, Tate, let's go there. Tate, come on, roll with it, Tate. This is our statistician. I don't know if his information is going to be helpful, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
All right.
Come on, Tate.
First of all, I want to say shout out to the teachers and congratulations, Ron. Teachers don't get enough credit for the things they do. I know a teacher, and it's just a lot of work. And so we appreciate you and all the teachers out there. So shout out
Thank you, Bishop
to all the
Rollins.
teachers who are out there. I wanted to share some information about the voting. And we talk about that we don't vote. Typically, when I say we, I'm painting with a broad brush.
You love to paint with a broad brush, don't you?
Democrats don't vote, and we sometimes apply that to African Americans.
All right.
But in Georgia,
well, let me just say this.
Mhm.
We apply it to African Americans because African Americans make up 85% of the Democratic Party. So that's why it's applied to African American based on the number of how many black people, African American, what do you want to call them, black African American, is 85%, and that's documented across the country. It's 85% black people vote Democrat traditionally.
okay, awesome.
Okay.
So this from 2026 is the Independent Voter Project. And so that's, you can find any data, but this is where this is coming from. Now, would you believe if I told you in Georgia, based on this data, there were 3 million Democratic voters, 3.2 million. Was documented. And just based on what we see, how our legislators are elected, there are only 2 million Republicans. So there are 3 million Democrats, 2 million Republican. Now the key is there are 2.2 million independents. And so if we come out to vote, and if we get half the independents, a lot of this can change. But you know who else knows this? The people who are doing the gerrymandering. They know this. So when you have a statewide election, these numbers are relevant because they are not carved up into districts. However, when you have congressional, then this number may not be relevant. So they would take wherever the big number we have and they would merge it in to those areas where there are more Republicans. And that's how the state Senate, all of those seats are filled by Republicans. But for the Senate and the presidential, if we came out in Georgia, there are actually more Democratic registered voters than Republicans. And the independents, the independents and the Republicans, there are more independents than Republicans. However, the Republicans win. Why? Because we don't go out. We don't understand that we have more numbers.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record to many of our repeat subscribers to Straight Talk, I think these numbers, Bishop, bear out that the Democratic Party, particularly in the southern states, they need a new agenda. They need a new message. To outnumber Republicans by 1.2 million votes and another additional 2.2 million independents, and we've yet to have a Democratic governor in 28 years. Roy Barnes was the last one, right at the turn of the new millennium. So the message is lost. And while Democrats continue to recycle here in the state of Georgia, where we're better than a Republican Party, and at least you will get a little something, that's different than giving a clear-cut identity and a platform the way Republicans do. If Republicans want to shuttle every illegal immigrant out of the state and out of the country, then their politicians get on a bus with a gun talking about this is what I'm going to ride around and throw all the illegals on and get them out of Georgia. If they want to change the voter registration procedures and make us have to get new voter IDs or make us have to take our birth certificates into the polling place or whatever we have to take, then they have a clear agenda of what and they communicate that agenda to their base. Democrats have this very amorphous blob of an agenda. Yeah, we may do a little bit of this, we may do a little bit of that for you, but mainly we just need to stop the Republicans. And that has been something that has kept so many leaning Democratic voters at home because they have zero idea of how the Democratic platform puts money in their pocket or adds protection to their immigration status or gives them better promotions at work. So we have got to light a fire under the Democratic Party of Georgia and demand accountability for an agenda that is going nowhere, for an agenda that voters continuously reject. So whereas there are some ingrained advantages for the Democratic platform, it's an abomination for them to be losing statewide, particularly here in Georgia when you got 1.2 million voter advantage. So I think we got to deal with that.
I think one is, too, is I'm looking at the numbers. The numbers look good, but I don't know that is that after the purge of the rolls or not. But even beyond that, when we talk about 85% Democrats that are Black, African American, the agenda for Blacks in the Democratic Party, what is their agenda? What is their agenda? That would cause Blacks to go to the poll like they did in the past to vote, or even when Blacks were voting Republican. What caused them? Because of what Lincoln had done, right? So Black were Republicans because he was doing things that helped Blacks, right? So you have Black people who are saying, why should I vote? what benefit is going to vote for a Democrat? You know, I'd rather don't vote at all, because I don't like the Republican agenda, but I don't see anything that the Democrats are doing to help. So that's why these numbers look like they do, and people are not going to the poll. As you said, Ron, they don't see any benefit. There's no benefit to vote Democrat other than the fact you say, well, I'm just voting for the lesser of the two evils, which you could be voting for an evil, because you got to realize that a lot of people switch from the Republican Party to become a Democrat in order to win races, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying these numbers are not right, but there are other variables and factors, because some of these could be people who are deceased now, that's still on the roll. We don't know, you know, but I know that people see saying, well, we got how many thousands of people or millions of people that did not vote during the last election. And we talked about it last week. You have to educate, you got to inspire, you got to mobilize. You got to educate people about the issues and what the benefit. When you go to this store, because I'm going to use this example. I buy my gas at a certain service station. I will buy gas nowhere else but at service station. Why? I was buying gas there when it was $3 and something a gallon, when people others were charging $4 something a gallon. When people started charging $4 something a gallon, then they went to $5 something a gallon. But the other station that I was going to, and I'm looking at them, they $5.39, 5 this and 5 that. So I went to the gas station. They gave me the better deal for me, for my pocketbook. So when you're dealing with people's pocketbooks, that's what makes people go vote for that party or vote for that individual, because it all comes back to what Ron just said. It said economics. It's about economics. Where do we eat? How can we eat? How can we pay our rent, our mortgage? How can we pay our car notes? How can we help with our kids with education? How can we clothe them? How can we feed them? I mean, that's the kinds of bread and butter issues people want to hear about. If they're going to vote for the Democratic Party, what are you doing? Healthcare. Healthcare is a major thing here in this state. And you got Democrats, or Michael Thurman talking about doing stuff more for Medicaid and taking money out of the reserve to help people with Medicaid. What they call it? Obamacare. They put more money into that, but you know that, and they got the money to do it. It's our money anyway. It's just sitting over there getting interest for somebody else. So there are issues that the Democratic Party, and that's Michael Thurman saying, is the party saying it, because the party itself doesn't have a message. It doesn't have a clear message. What do the party stand for across the country? I'm not just talking about the state. I mean across the country. So we can't be anti-Republican because of because of Donald Trump, but we can't be because there are some Republicans that more for us than some Democrats. That's just real talk.
And the diversity issue is another one that Democrats have to deal with. I understand diversity is a great buzzword. We want diversity in our occupations, in our jobs. We want diversity in our institutions. But when we talk about diversity in terms of voting, diversity brings up the fact that if you have a diverse voting population under one tent, i.e. the Democratic Party, those diverse groups have different priorities. And so it's hard to build a collective consciousness as a single political entity when you have so many small factions represented under your big tent philosophy. So how do the Democrats get the African American, we say African, I think that's too formal. How we get black voters to vote with Latino voters, with Asian voters, with poor voters, and middle class voters? Everyone on that gambit that I just went around the circle to name, they have different priorities and different interests. And the Democrats do a very poor job of roll calling the member units of their political collaboration to get each community to understand how the general platform of the Democratic Party is going to answer the agenda items in each community. So this is why Republicans are so effective at swaying large portions of the independent vote and even the underpinnings of Democratic populations, because their clear message will appeal to the segments of those populations that are attracted to that message. So even if it's just the upper class of these different constituent groups in the Democratic Party who may be attracted to the GOP, that's 4-5% of the Black community, 7-9% of the Asian community, 11% of the Hispanic community. And those little trickles add up to make up the difference between the general registered population of the Democratic Party in states like Georgia and the general registered Republican population in states like Georgia as well. So I think these numbers should be a wake-up call both to the Democratic Party and both to Democratic candidates who are running. And can you identify a single issue that is your bread and butter bottom line issue that you say voters need to vote on? And then can you explain how that single issue will impact a diverse array of communities that make up the Democratic Party base? We've yet to see that happen.
Well, I'm letting Tape say something. I know, Tape, you're going to go to those other states. But I want, when you go to other states, I'm going to have some conversation about that. You read, go about
Okay, I want to touch on Mississippi.
Okay, Mississippi.
Another great state.
Because
Okay,
Mississippi, we've heard that, Mississippi has been Republican forever.
Deep red.
Deep, you're right. Deep,
Bleeding.
and Tennessee.
Right.
Bleeding red.
Bleeding red.
Yeah.
According to the data, and considering what Bishop said, we don't know the makeup of the numbers,
Sure.
but according to the data, in 2026, in Mississippi, there are 456,000 Democrats, registered Democratic voters. Now, Republicans, they have 563,000, so that's a difference there. However, there are 933 undecided.
Half the state.
Undecided.
Right.
So if to Ron's point, if there's a clear message, there's a clear agenda, even if it came from the National Democratic Party to help these local politicians, and to, as you said, it's a wake-up call to us. But it's also, the Republicans know this too. And that's, again, why I believe this gerrymandering has taken place, because they had to give us one, and now they're taking that away. And in Tennessee, I'm going to hit Tennessee and Texas.
Okay.
I'll get back to you guys. Tennessee, deep red as well.
Deep red.
Democrat voters, 791,000. Republicans, 1.4 million. There are 2 million undecided.
Half the state. Again, half the state undecided.
Undecided. But if you let us see it, we'll think the whole state is red. But based on coming out, this last one, then we're opening you guys to finish up. I just want to give you in Texas, it's the royal one. It's the jewel, crown jewel. Texas has, for the Democrats, 8.1 million registered voters. Republicans, 6.6. And 2.7 undecided, independents. However, the state remains red.
Okay, let me just say something. About these numbers. About these numbers. I think one thing we have to understand is that, to Ron's point that he made earlier, if the message is not clear for Democratic voters, they're not voting. They'll now become in this other category as being independent voters, right? So what you're seeing in, this say what last state just gave, Texas, just because they draw the lines for a Republican district, there's still, it's not going to be enough taken away in a state that you can take away and just do away with Democratic voters, right? You can't. They see these numbers, but there's an underlining number that no one knows, because it's that independent voter. You don't know how that independent voter is going to vote based on the fact on what is the message that party or that individual is saying. We're intelligent now. We vote for people who we know that's going to work in our best interest, because they're proven that they're going to work in our best interest. We should be, not because I surah, not because a brother who was part of our fraternity, or this is somebody I went to school with, or their mama was this, or their dad was that. What are you doing? And what are you going to do? And we're coming to that point. See, don't vote for my son because of me, because my son is not me. Don't vote for my daughter because my daughter is not me. See, we have to move away from that in terms of, well, because it's classism in a sense, because when you elected this person because their dad was this, and so I'm going to get the job because my dad was this. And, I mean, we do ourselves a disservice because we're electing people who really don't really stand up to what we need in terms of a leader to take us into those areas, those deep areas that we need. We need food, we need clothing, we need shelter, we need insurance. These education, these are things that we need for our community. We need housing. These are things that we need. I mean, just real things. And I'm tired of, Ron, you and Jay, I'm tired of us, the message that today that's going on today with the world, the problem that we're faced with today, we've been talking about that. Our fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, they were talking about the same thing. We back at the same thing that they were talking about because we have not elected people who carried our water. They have not carried our water. They got in the back room and they sold out and they not carried our water. Yeah, and so these numbers to me, they're numbers. They're numbers, and thank you for bringing the numbers. They're numbers, but it's the underlining numbers. It's the underlining numbers that nobody knows who they are and how they're going to vote.
And Bishop, I want to follow up on that point, Bishop Fan. I want to talk about how states like Texas and Georgia, because they're different than a little bit than states like Mississippi, Tennessee. Texas and Georgia have big urban populations. Texas got San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, Houston, and Atlanta has Savannah, Atlanta, Columbus, Macon. These are places where minorities, Black people, brown people, Hispanics, Asians, they congregate. These are the voter bases. From the Civil War, once the Confederacy was defeated and through Reconstruction and these states, ex-Confederate states were brought back into the Union, a lot of Black folks started going to the cities in Texas and in Georgia. Well, the white politicians in Texas and Georgia got wise about that, and they came up with the county unit system. And the county unit system went from Reconstruction all the way to the Voters' Rights Act in 1965. Here's what the county unit system did. Yeah, you may have a whole bunch of Black people in urban counties like Fulton County, DeKalb County here in the state of Georgia. So you give those counties the most county unit votes. They may have 6, but all these penny ante rural counties, they may have less unit votes, but the degree that they have less votes is very minimal. They have 4 county unit votes. So if you have 200 smaller counties that get 4 unit votes apiece, but you only have maybe 6 or 8 high population counties and they get 6, even though they get more, they're so outweighed by the number of smaller white counties that difference is completely overwhelmed. So now that the Supreme Court ruled that county unit systems were illegal in the late 60s, here we see them gerrymandering. And they are taking the exact lines and districts of major Black and brown districts and expanding them, redrawing them to incorporate areas of these smaller white counties that give the population advantage to the white people and the white voters. And Bishop, you have nailed it. Since the late 60s, when the county unit system was outlawed by the Supreme Court, you failed to see Democratic candidates when they were being elected in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s hammer in institutional ways to give us a voting advantage the way the Republicans are doing now. We were so bipartisan in that 40-year period, always asking for the permission of the outnumbered Republican Party so we can act like we have a consensus. Whereas these jet-led Republicans never under any circumstances are crossing the aisle to get Democratic permission before they restart gerrymandering, or when they redid the voting laws in 2020 after the Biden election. And we know that after Obama was elected in 2008, it was a nationwide movement to get the conservatives back in power because they felt as if the country had lost its way. The diversity issue, when you want to see political parties start putting the needs of Hispanic, Black, Asian, and Native American and poor Americans supposedly on equal footing with middle-class white Americans, I'm telling you, that is the fear-based politics of the GOP that gets their people out. And until the Democrats have the courage to be a Black-led, Hispanic-led, Asian-led political party, we will always lack. And I say we simply because my vote has been maneuvered that the Democratic Party is the only reasonable choice if I want to have some type of connection of accountability with the people we elect in the office. The GOP ain't listening to my politics, neither have, and I doubt they will. Third party candidates seem to have too difficult of a time to get elected. So we keep being stuck in this little cauldron that puts pressure on us that we're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
Well, Dave, if you want to say something, I'll yield.
Okay. I want to follow what you said,
Sure.
Ron, about Tennessee. Memphis is the example. Memphis, and you had a young lady, she may have expounded on that last week.
Sure.
But Memphis, you see what happened to them. That was that's the most urban city in Tennessee. And they diluted that vote into 3 congressional areas. And so even though we can still vote in Memphis, but the likelihood of a person who's a Democrat probably won't win because even though that urban city, and they probably have a third of the state population may be in that city. But they saw that now congressional wise, they can vote, but their voice won't be heard. However, statewide, if they want to get some of these senators out, if they want to make sure they go and vote to get something to change the governor, and maybe they can change the message at the top, whereas they may not have that local voice.
We're gonna come back to this. I just want to say as we get ready to go to part 2, I'm one of those people, like I said last week, I don't think we're done. Well, those districts are, we can move in there. We can move people in. We can move blacks in there. We can move Hispanics in there. We can move Asians in there. Come on now. See, I think what we sitting back saying, well, it ain't all laws. All is not laws because, well, you move this way, we move this way. But we got to start being proactive as opposed to being reactive. That's our problem. We're too reactive. That's why when they say now that when Trump ran the last time, the percentage of African Americans or black voting for him was 12%. This time it was 18%. Well, that's because he talked that good talk, and then talking about he's going to do away taxes, he's going to do this and all the stuff he was going to do that he didn't do. And people didn't listen to Project 2025 and what they were going to do. And they have done just that. So what we have to do is have a proactive measure in terms of what we are going to do and how we're going to do what we do. But we have to stop putting people in office who get in office who look like us, but do not stand up and fight for us. We need people who are going to go to work for us. I was with a group of individuals today who are elected officials, and they wanted to tell me and tell the preachers what they wanted us to do. And I simply said to them, you came to us and asked us to support you because you want to work for us. So you don't come tell us what you want us to do. We tell you what we want you to do because you work for us. You came and put in an application for this job. You came in and said, I would love for you to support me to be your next this and your next whatever office you ran for, that I need your support to get that office. And This is what I'm going to do. If I win, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to fight for this. Fight for this. Well, your application looked pretty good. So we're going to give you an opportunity. We're going to go on and hire you. And how do we hire? By voting for them, right? We got, because all of our black folks and all our skin folks, let's be real on Straight Talk, they're not. And we just elected people who are not with us. They're not down for the cause. They're not down for the cause. And there's too much classism amongst us in order for us to gain what we need to gain and to be where we need to be. Well, we'll be back after this commercial message. Well, commercial message, this message. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your child is?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
This is Straight Talk with it.
Well, we're back, and certainly we hope you know where your children are. Man, children's safety is very important, especially now that they're out of school, okay? All right. Now, and where your cell phone at, Ron? About the cell phone, how we live with that cell phone. Don't get it taken. We live with that cell phone. That cell phone done messed up a minute. I know people got ran over, walking across the street, talking on the cell phone, listening to music. Right?
That's been me.
Oh no!
It was almost me a couple of times.
I'm telling you. Yeah. I mean, a kid got killed. Several kids got killed walking in, falling in holes and everything. Got the cell phone up to their ear, listening to music and what have you. Well, not paying attention to what they are going. Just like we're talking about election, people are not paying attention. They ain't paying attention. So we got some things we're gonna talk about the SEC, the Southeastern Conference football, and the HBCUs, and how many of these and a protest, and they're talking about a protest of having our young black athletes who are going to these other schools, University of Georgia, University of Tennessee, all of these other colleges that are not HBCU schools, but making billions of dollars for these schools, and then they're dealing with us based on not wanting us to have a right to vote. So we good for their sports, but we're not good enough to vote for who we want to vote for to represent, whether they be white, whether they be black, whether they be Asian, whether they be any. But don't take our representation from us opportunity to choose. See, that's what it is. God gives us the opportunity to choose, don't he?
Right.
God gives us
to this day.
To this day.
Stand at the door and knock.
That's right. So if God gives us the opportunity to choose, and now they want to take that choice away from us to choose a certain race of people, man, God is not happy. God don't like ugly. So let's talk about the scuttlebutt about kids and protesters. So there's some people saying about protesting these other schools and having our kids go to HBCU schools and help those schools to make the billions and billions of dollars off of athletic programs. Tate, you brought it up. I'm gonna let you hit it first, my friend.
Okay. Well, there's a push. Well, there's a discussion, brother. I don't know how far it's gone.
When you get to talk about it, go further.
Okay, to encourage our athletes who are attending Southeastern Conference schools, mainly because of the gerrymandering. Also, because most of those schools is alleged support Republican agenda. And to your point, Bishop Fan, to Ron, our athletes, more than football, they don't, based on what's going on now, they won't, even if they vote, they will have to, some of the votes may be diluted. So the issue, I think, is NIL, name, image, and likeness. Name, image, and likeness, and for those who may not know, it's basically pay for play. And in a lot of these SEC schools, they have donors, they have sponsors, they have the network, ESPN is one of their sponsors, and the SEC, they get about $58 million a year and that's for all sports, but mainly football is where most of it goes.
I think they're in the billions.
Yeah, well, I mean, each year
from
the
each school,
right?
Gotcha. Each school is getting that amount, right? You're
Right.
correct. You are correct.
And so they have these collectives rather, and that's where people put money into the pot. And so some of your athletes could easily get over $1 million.
Many of them are.
Yeah. And they start, maybe the ones who are not in your quarterback, running back, they may get $350,000. And I think it's a hard sell to ask those athletes to give up that type of money. Now they're talking to their grandparents, they're talking to the parents. So I say instead of going to HBCUs, because they cannot pay someone $350,000 if that's the minimum, $50,000, $100,000. Instead of SEC schools, drive them California, Oregon, Penn State, those schools where the NIL is still out there, but you have to make these states feel the pain. And if it's not through football, we need to figure out other ways strategically where they will see that, hey, what we're doing, we need to reconsider. Because these same people who draw these lines, they're at the games on Saturday and they're rooting, they're cheering, but then when the game is over, and what was that Laura Ingrate said, just dribble and shut up. And that's what they want us to do, our kids to do, to dribble, shut up, entertain them. But I don't know if HBCUs really is a viable option.
I want to say this is why we have to look at integration and desegregation as one of the most unfortunate conditionings and brainwashings of the Black community. We have zero control over our labor at this point. Instead of funneling our best and brightest to HBCUs, where most of our athletes and most of our intellectuals were going all the way up until desegregation, we made it a premium and a benefit and a sign of progress to leave your community and go perform your trade, go perform your talent at a white school. I mean, we celebrate Hamilton E. Holmes, who integrated the University of Georgia. We have monuments for all the first African Americans who were at the University of Texas, at the University of Florida, University of Georgia, South Carolina, these schools that make up the SEC. So 70 years into integration, where we continue to send all our best and brightest to white institutions, us as professionals. If you're an adult and you're a Black lawyer, you're a Black doctor, are you going to work for an all-Black law firm? Are you going to work for an all-Black hospital? Typically, the most political and economic advantages you're going to get in your profession are by integrating to a white field, a white institution. So now these white institutions that we work for, we see that they politically support our economic and political enemies. And so now we want to backtrack and dump most of the obligation and power on young athletes and tell them to take their 4-year window of eligibility, sacrifice that, go to a HBCU. We have some college athletes making $5 million a year through NIL now. And you're supposed to now go to Grambling or go to Savannah State, go to Morehouse and make $350,000 a year through your 4 years of eligibility. This is now the ridiculous sacrifice. And I say it's ridiculous only because we were maneuvered into a position in which, when we were having our own communities, Black Wall Street, Black Broadway in DC, Black Wall Street out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had East St. Louis and Watts in LA. These were communities that the white people were able to raise to the ground through race wars and race massacres. For most of the time throughout the 19th and 20th century, Black property owners were unable to get insurance policies if their properties were burned down by white people during their insurrection. So our power base and political base were eroded by the KKK, the White League of the South, and the rewriting of Southern constitutions. We were only given a thin sliver that if we integrate in the mainstream society, then the white dogs of the South will leave us alone. As long as we stop with our self-determination. So 70 years into integration, we're seeing that we have no control over our labor. We have no control over our politics. And so the points of leverage that we do have in this system, we now want to scramble and see how we can use that to our benefit. But I think it's just too difficult to tell a young man or a young woman who is now at the pinnacle of their achievement going to college to take a 85% pay cut to remain in political and economic solidarity with your community. How can we make that ask of our young people? I mean, it's so amazing. We don't ask our Black billionaires to give up 10, 15% of their earnings so it can trickle down, so we can have a better chance to fight this political maneuvering of the GOP. But we tell young people to give up their earnings. I question that a little bit.
I think Tate want to tap dance a little bit.
No. But see, now, as far as the HBCUs and the NIL, money is money.
Money is money.
It doesn't matter where it comes from. And you said something. So if our Black billionaires, millionaires, billionaires, HBCU alums, if they pour into a collective, and the collective, I think kids don't really care. They want to be paid. So if you put money into the collective, you mentioned Grambling, Jackson State. So if I could go to Jackson State and you telling me you're going to give me $800,000, I may consider it. But if you're telling me I got to get, this is a free education, and in 4 years down the road, you may get drafted. No, not when Ole Miss, which I would never go to, and they're going to give me $800 guaranteed. So there's a way. However, it would have to be those who have, quote unquote, made it. So if our entertainers, if our athletes, if our billionaires, if our executives, if they were on board with this and they made it these HBCUs, and we're going to make sure that if you decide to come here, we're going to give you the same amount of money, if not more, than what you would have received at Mississippi State or at LSU. Because if you can play, the league will find you.
Absolutely.
But these kids want to get paid.
I think Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter. That's skip over your bishop.
Yeah, you know, you guys are just dominated this sports thing. They just dominated it. They dominated this conversation.
Well, I'm an SEC man.
I mean, he's an SEC man. I'm a Watson High man.
I'm an ACC.
I'm a Watson High man. I'm Watson High.
And Washington.
Well, they are the Bulldogs, though, Bishop. We got two Bulldogs playing in the SEC.
Oh, my.
Now, y'all not Washington.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
We Bulldogs.
Let me just say this. One is, we're talking about sports. We're talking about young people giving up money. We said that before. People off camera, people are swayed by money. That's you pay your rent, your house notes, your car notes, you know, your everything. You take money for everything. Where you eat, where you sleep, what you wear, what you ride in, you know, all those things take money, right? And for young people, many of our young people have, and their parents have spent all kinds of money, you know, in little sports, basketball. I got a member now who's been going every Sunday to the basketball games with his young son. He's good too, right. But that's what they strive for, to be professional athletes, or even on the collegiate level where they can still get paid, which really was good because they wasn't paying them before. Because Herschel know he was getting
SEC was paying on the table. They always paid.
That's what I'm saying. Herschel was definitely getting paid.
They get paid. All of them paid.
Herschel was getting paid through the alumni and all that other stuff. Yeah. I mean, but now they're doing it legally.
Right.
They're doing it legally.
That's why they whine in the SEC, because everybody can pay now.
So go. Thank you for letting me go on. Yeah. I'm gonna go on now. But I think one of the things that when we talk about what can we do from a proactive way in terms of the issue that we're faced with, money has always been an issue for everybody. I don't care who you are. And people are going to choose money over things.
You right?
So that is a moot argument in terms of getting them to protest and give up monies on voting, because most of them don't even care about voting, because I got mine, you got to get yours, right? So let's talk about some things, and I threw this out, and this is something for discussion for next week, is that maybe we can talk about is that in those areas that you talked about, in those towns, in those areas, and the bigger city, the major cities, let's go look at the major cities in the southern states. Let's look at the populations of those cities in terms of how many Democrat votes are there, Republican votes there. Then let's look at where the gerrymandering is going, that we can look at, okay, so what areas do we need to move in? What areas do we need to move in so we can dilute it? See, I'm not looking, what I am is, I don't see this as, it's a setback, but it's not a setback because we've gotten so comfortable. Something has to wake us up. And this is a wake up moment, right? And all those people who said, my vote don't count no way. My vote don't count. Well, now they can see their vote do count, right? So let's come back with that kind of data, that kind of information, Ron. And let's dissect it right here on the program. Let's talk about it. Because we can help other people to understand, listen, because we have not always lived in the areas we live. And I'll give you an example. Clayton County. We didn't control Clayton County. Clayton County was a Republican county. We didn't control Henry County. Henry County was a Republican county, right? I mean, so these Gwinnett County was a what? Republican county. Right. But people moved into those counties and it become what? A Democratic county. So I'm just saying, so let's look at this and look at this as a mean or a strategy as to how we move people into certain areas where there may be, because when we look at Fulton County, look at Atlanta. Atlanta's population is down lower now because people who lived in Atlanta now living in Clayton, they're living in Gwinnett, they're living in Cobb, they're looking at, and these are the counties where they said we will not have on the ballot whether you're Democrat or Republican. See, that's not right either, because you identify all of the black counties where they are, so you can say, well, I don't have to declare no party. I heard the lady say, well, I'm a judge, but judges shouldn't be political. We used to believe that. The Supreme Court has shown us that judges are political. Yes. They're the highest court in the land. We know they're political. They political. They make the Constitution be what they want to do.
And their job is interpret the law.
Right.
If your job is interpretation of the Constitution and the statutes, that's political in and of itself.
It is.
It's inescapably political.
Right. So let's come back. Let's come back, and we're gonna have more discussion on this. And if you're out there, give us your thoughts as you see us, as you talk to us. Give us your thoughts about what you think. And thank Brother Stone for your comment. Thank you, Anthony Freeman, for your comment. Thank those others who have said, hey, we enjoyed the program last week. You shouldn't have beat up on tape so bad. I said, but I'm just getting him lessons. I'm getting him right, y'all. I'm getting him right. He's going to be all right after a while. But anyway, I want to just thank those of you who made your comments and said, and Robert, so I said, put it in there, Robert, great program, good information. Listen, I really want this program to be a source of information. We may not agree on everything. But it's agreed to be agreeable but not disagreeable, right? So we don't have to agree on everything, but one thing we do agree on is that we're standing up for our people, because our people are the one that's being disenfranchised with this voting tape. The Voters' Right Act, fought like to get it, and we have to fight like to keep it. Thank you so very much. May God bless you and you stay strong. This ain't been nothing but Straight Talk with your two great fan of Preacher Man. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to make comments. Don't forget to share. And you can send it to Miss C at Straight Talk News 1362@gmail.com if you want to be on the program. We can arrange that. All right. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, again, God bless. Stay strong. This ain't been nothing again but what? Straight Talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan, the Preacher Man.